Thank you so much. Are we enjoying it? Are we taking our notes full so far? Don't worry, after this we'll have a little break and then you can drink tea and just stretch your legs a little bit. So the topic of the panel discussion now will be building a legacy of impact. As you can tell from what we've been saying, everything ends with having an impact, a legacy rather, having a legacy. So this panel, women will talk to you about how to build on. You heard their bios, you've seen. That's why we purposely, it was very intentional for us to speak about and project what these women have achieved so that you can know the quality of those that are going to be speaking to you in this session. So welcome, my ladies. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for agreeing to come on board. Thank you. So I would like to ask each of you to speak to us on what does legacy mean to you as a leader, as a woman. What does legacy mean to you?
Good afternoon, everyone. I think when I think about legacy, broadly, when you want to define legacy, you would say that legacy is leaving the world a little bit better than you found it. And I'm a fan of watching criminal shows, so I watch investigative shows. And when I think about legacy deeply within myself, I think about when you have a crime scene and you look at the footprints, and what investigators look at. They'll look at the footprints, they'll look at someone's fingerprints, they'll look at their DNA, they'll look at evidence that they've left behind, blood and everything. So if I think about legacy, even as a person, even before we think about women, I just think about it as leaving your footprints somewhere. And it's not just about Foluke has been here and you see her footprints, but also that Foluke has footprints that someone can step in and even make something of themselves and even be better. So I don't just want to leave my footprint on earth as a legacy to say that, just to make myself for fame, to say that, oh, Foluke has been here, but that when someone steps into my footprints, I want them to know that they can be something and they can even do more than I have done. And leaving my fingerprints somewhere, so I don't only want to leave my fingerprints in places, I want to leave my fingerprints in people's lives. So all the while that I've worked in organizations I've worked in, and you've seen my bio, I've been able to leave my fingerprints in everyone's life, just being able to know that I impacted them in some way, not being self-centered in saying that because they're working for me, what they need to achieve is to achieve it in that organization, or they're working with me as colleagues, but also what are you going to be like in future as a person? What do you really want to be? So that's why I feel like it's a legacy. Also leaving my DNA somewhere so that they can know everyone's fingerprint is unique, everyone's DNA is unique. What is my unique imprint that I've been born with? What did God call me to be? And you know, everyone has come. There's a Bible verse that talks about, and which is my Bible verse for the year. And I know a lot of people have spoken about the Bible, and as Mrs. Allen has spoken, a lot of us here are nothing without God. And just thinking about the Bible verse that I anchored my year on is Psalm 40 verse 7 to 8, which says, "Lo, I come in the volume of the book that was written about me. I desire to do your will, O Lord, and I delight to know your law." And that is my Bible verse for the year. And that's what I do every year, every day. I want to know that what has God written for me? What has been written long before I was born? And what am I doing on earth to be able to walk in that plan? So that's why I think it's a legacy, just living the world better than I came into it.
Wow. Thank you so much, Foluke. Leaving your footprint. You know, footprint is like when you step somewhere and you leave that place. It's there. It stays there. So what do you want people to remember you for? What is that footprint, good or bad? Thank you so much, Foluke. Over to you, Rolayo.
Amazing. I'll try not to repeat anything she said. When I think about legacy, and first of all, thank you, Doja, for putting this together. This is amazing. When I think about legacy, what to mind is, so I'm going to age myself a little bit. And I'll tell you, when I was in secondary school, way back when, who remembers when you used to have desks, right? And then you see some people who write, somebody was here. Do you remember? Who remembers that? So for me, that's legacy. Who was here? How was she here? Because we're talking about legacy in terms of leadership. So it's not just about what a leader does, but how the leader does it. So it's not just who you're leading. How are you leading? I think legacy is a story that people tell about you when you're not in the room, right? Because people know it's not about, and it's good to make numbers, those things are important. But what I think about is when I see someone that may have been part of my team, or I may have influence, because leadership is not just about somebody working with you or for you, you're influencing people. The conversation we'll be having will not be about the bottom line, it's about real life issues, real life, how you impacted that person as a human being. So I think it's important to first of all see people as humans, not resources. I'm saying that within the context of an organization, because sometimes we just think this person does this person does that. The version of you that comes into the office or your business is just a small part of who you really are, the entirety of you. Because I think every human being is so vast, so robust, there's so much we can do. So when I think of legacy, what comes to my mind is, how am I impacting this person, not just for now, but for the person's future, for the version of that person that they don't even know exists yet. Because as a leader, I believe part of our responsibilities is not just to see where someone is, but where they could be, and to help them get there. That's the benefit you have of having walked the journey, because you've been down the path and you can help guide someone along the way. So what is legacy to me? It's understanding that everything has a shelf life. It's going to come to an end at some point. But during the journey, to do the best you can, to change lives, make an impact, as you said, and it has to be something that's intentionally done, making sure everywhere is better for you being there. So when someone goes into any organization, or it's not just about the organization, in the imprint of someone's heart, someone can say, okay, Rolayo was here. That to me, that's legacy.
Ooh. Did you catch that? You know what I picked? She said everything has a shelf life. What does that tell us? Times and season. So if you don't take advantage of the season that God has put you in, or the opportunities that you have, it has a shelf life. It's going to expire. Thank you so much, Rolayo. Over to you, Funmi. Thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. And it feels so good to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Of course, to me, legacy is creating lasting impact. Mm-hmm. And of course, the kind of influence that you have in the various organizations or institutions that you've worked for, or even the people that have worked with you. Of course, they've said a lot about what legacy means, and of course, I wouldn't like to repeat what they have said. But to me, it's building such that when you're no longer there, the people who come after you, without even knowing you or meeting you, would admit that someone has actually impacted this space. That for me is legacy. I go into spaces where I meet people I haven't met before, and they run and they introduce themselves to me. I'm like, okay, I don't even know you. And they say, oh, I joined this bank so time after you have left and heard so much about you. I think that for me is legacy. Again, I tell people that the people that you lead, they're as good as who you are. So my belief is that as a leader, the kind of impact, the legacy that you leave is having to see people who are coming after you, the people you're mentoring, seeing and adopting the values that you have put into them. And that's why I say a lot of times, some of us were lucky that we met and worked with great leaders who impacted us positively. So the kind of impact you as a leader has is based on your values. So if you're the one that is, of course, passing down the negative values to people who, of course, are working with you, they then take on those values, and of course, the world become a worse place. So what do you do as a leader to, of course, ensure that you're creating lasting impact such that the world becomes a better place? Is for you to, of course, imbibe quality values. And so it's not just about you, it's you putting in place things that transcends you And of course, it's like you're building an institution. For example, if you work in a bank or, you're building an institution, and of course, you are creating lasting impact on the business and of course on the people who have worked with you.
Thank you so much for me. What I can take from what you're saying is legacy, you live it every day. More like every day is a legacy, right? So are we asking ourselves, what is my legacy? Or what legacy am I building? For me to stay on you, please. So from what you have said as a follow-on, legacy often requires consistency. How do you remain consistent with your impact goals amidst life's pressures?
Okay, so of course there are pressures everywhere. So first thing that comes to mind that I do is of course ensure that my mental health, my, everything that has to do with taking care of my health, my mental health, physical and emotional is in place. So I, of course, make sure that that is well taken care of. And of course, in terms of ensuring that I keep, ensuring that the values, the legacy, the impact that I'm making is consistent. What do I ensure I do? I clearly define my purpose. And of course, here today, it's good to see young ladies here today. Most of you, I expect, are Gen Zs. I don't know, I came in a bit late. But of course, I can see faces. So clearly define your purpose. What are my values? Because that's very important. What values do I hold there? What passion do I have? What are those things I'm passionate about? What legacy do I want to leave behind in this space? And clearly defining those values would help you. You have to be intentional about it. You cannot say your value is excellence and then you're doing something different from excellence. You cannot say my value is integrity. And of course, when there are pressures of life, you then abandon the integrity and then go after something else. Every day, as you come to work, as you interact with colleagues, as you interact with your clients, depending on the kind of business that you do, the values that you have, the things that you believe are things that you want to, of course, that drive the kind of impact that you have, must be seen in everything you do. So you must be intentional about it by ensuring that clearly you are defining them. And of course, you're ensuring that you're intentional about living those values. When people see you, what do they say about you? I remember clearly there was an instance in an organization I worked for. And, in a bank where people are particular about your dress code and everything. And of course, this person as a senior would come in late to work at times to meetings. And of course, at times would not be properly dressed. So on this particular day, she walked in. We started the meeting at about 8 a.m. or thereabout, and then she walked in about 9:30, and then said to, of course, our supervisor then, and said to him, I'm going to be leaving very soon. I have another meeting. And of course, I found that very strange. So I then had to call short the meeting. I wasn't the most senior, but I then said, this is an insult to every one of us here. You came in late as a leader. And then you checked your wristwatch, and then you were saying you had another meeting too. And then, there and then, I made it known to her that she's been doing this consistently, and of course, is not in line with the values of the business. And as soon as I said that, every other person on the desk, in fact, the meeting was cut short. Every other person on the desk then took her up to say, you are constantly coming to meetings late. You are a senior. You can't be doing this. So, of course, she stayed and eventually didn't leave the meeting. And after the meeting, I noticed that she left, of course, very upset with everyone. No interaction, the usual gist and everything that we do usually after the meeting. She just left. And then I called her. I said, oh, why did you leave so soon? She said, no, Funmi, I know you very well that, those are your values and you don't mince words about them. And that you were not, you're not a sentimental person when it comes to expressing your values. But then that others that spoke to her, she clearly knew that they came from the point of just wanting to demean a person. What am I trying to take out of here? Somebody knows you, knows what you stand for. I remember Mrs. Ibekwe spoke about, what are you known for? You must be known for something. And regardless of the pressures of life, because there are pressures every day, and we women do face pressures. You face pressures from the home front, you have the children to take care of, you have a lot of things going on for us. Even the usual monthly cycle itself is a pressure. So how then in the midst of that do we live our values? We must be consistent, we must define them, and we must be intentional about living them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Values. And part of her value, you know, she just arrived into the country this morning and she gave me her word. She said, don't worry, I will be there. Please, can you appreciate her for me? Values. What are you known for? Right? Right. We're in classroom. We're back in school. What are my values? Do I compromise? When I say yes, do I stand by my yes? Or do I allow the pressures to let me change my yes to no? What are my values? Are they good or are they bad? What do I want to be known for? These are real food for thought. Thank you so much for me. Thank you. Rolayo, let me come to you. Can you, okay, many questions. If so, can you talk to us about when we want to start to build a legacy? So just assume that these people are just about to build a legacy. What is the first step? Clear and, you know, not too ambiguous. What's the first step to building a legacy? What they can start doing today in building a legacy?
Okay, thanks, Doja. I think the first thing you need to do in building a legacy is first of all identifying who you are. Because what's a legacy? It means you're replicating yourself in other people. So if you don't know who you are, what are you multiplying? What are you replicating? So understand who exactly are you, what you stand for. And I love what Funmi said about consistency. Consistency is just one aspect of an individual. What do you want? What is the legacy you want to leave? Remember we said legacy is about the impact. So what impact are you looking to leave behind? What is the I was here that you want to be written about you, right? And then once you've identified that, it must resonate, because I'm talking about authenticity now, it must resonate with who you say you are. Because you can't leave an impact of something that does not align with who you really are. Not who you say you are, but who you really are. How many of us know there's some people where they say this, but they do something else, right? Consistently. So their mouth is going one direction, but their actions are going somewhere else, right? You can't trust that person. That kind of person cannot build a lasting positive legacy. And you mentioned, because legacy is not always good, it could be bad as well. Slight segue, you know, over the course of the years, we've all worked with different types of people. And I remember once I had a boss, and I've had many supervisors through my life, right? But by the time this person was about to become my boss, you know how it is, you ask questions like, okay, who's this person? What's this person like? And so on. And what was said about this individual is that if this person tells you good afternoon, you have to go and check, is it really afternoon, is it morning, or is it evening? Now, this was someone else telling me about this individual, so which means that person had already left a legacy of who that individual really was, not what they were saying. So the person can come up with lovely motivational, but once that is in the back of your mind, as the person is saying something, you as an individual are already checking, okay, what is being said, what is not being said, what don't I know, because this person is known for not necessarily being honest. So I think the very first step in creating a legacy is being intentional about who you are, number one. What's your identity? And what do you want to be known for? Because a legacy is going to happen whether you do anything about it or not, right? It's now a question of how you want to scale it. So for instance, what we're having today is Doja intentionally scaling her level of impact, right? Her field of impact. So if you now want to say you want to scale the impact that you want to make, then how do you want to scale it? What do you want to scale it through? Do you want to talk to younger women, older women, business sector? So just be very clear, because wherever it is you are, you're one step ahead of someone else, right? So no matter what you think you don't know, you know something that somebody else doesn't know. So do you want to start there? Because sometimes you may feel, I need to be the blah, 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 blah before I can do anything. No, as you are now, the things you know that somebody else does not know. So do you want to start from there? Do you want to start with one-on-one? Do you want to set up a meeting this, sort of like this? So now decide, number one, who you are, to the structure, right? So I'm not speaking to structure. What do you want your impact to look like, right? As far as you want to put things in place, what sort of impact you want to leave, number one, then what you want that to look like, and how you're going to be intentional about it. So you're not here today, gone tomorrow. Everything's a journey. We're all learning. But be very, very clear about how you want to do what you need to do. So as far as starting today, step one, be very clear. Who are you? Because that is what's going to speak more volumes than anything else that you do. So I'll stop there.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rolayo. So in identifying who you are, it's possible that you tell yourself the truth. To thyself be true. I'm not exactly honest. Sometimes I say something and I don't mean it, right? Sometimes, for the entrepreneurs, you could say things like, I said I'm going to deliver in 10 days, and I'm not doing it in 10 days. I'm wasting time. When you're not consistent, when you don't keep to your word, when your integrity is at stake. So talking about who you are, it's also an opportunity for you to ask yourself and change who you are if you see that you are not exactly where you are supposed to be. Do we get that bit? So you're not perfect, but you're here to align to doing things properly. Thank you so much for that, Rolayo. Foluke, tell us, how do you align your personal values with business goals and professional ambition?
So I think number one is just to know what your personal values are, to even align. And you cannot do business without knowing, as Rolayo said, like who you are. What are you all about? So if you are authentically who you are, if you're showing up as who you are, then naturally everything about who you are makes an imprint into what you are all about. So I'll give you an example. If you say one of your personal values is respect, and when you are in business, you are not respecting everybody along the way. Many people think that because you're working in an organization and maybe you are the boss, you should only be respected. But then respect goes top down as well. So are you respecting your colleagues? What kind of respect are you showing to your colleagues? What kind of respect are you showing to people around you? How do you make people, because respect is not earned. It's earned, respect is earned, but you cannot earn respect by lording yourself over people. If you show up as who you are, and if you show up as a real person, not someone that will say that, okay, you look outside and you're lying all the time. If they know that this is what you stand for, if they say that you call a meeting and you will speak the truth, if they know that someone that would stand up for who they are. So I've worked in many organizations where you have colleagues that work with you that they don't have your back. So you go into a meeting and you have to be prepared to know that one is showing up as a wife, and you have so many responsibilities apart from what you're showing up on, and not knowing that they're coming to work just not to deliver results to the bottom line, but also coming to impact them, as Rolayo said, is that you're impacting them for the long term. So are you empathetic enough to know that they might be going through something today and they're not showing up as their best self? How are you knowing that every day when you're speaking to them, not only asking them about, have you delivered the project, but how are you today? I've come across a lot of people, and I know people are like that. And I think one of the things we have to realize is being able to, as Doja said, is being able to call ourselves out for what we are weak at. I know people that ask you, how are you? but they don't really want to know. And the next thing you're going, yeah. But did you hear my answer? I said, I'm not fine. But they would have said, yeah, before they know they are not fine. When you ask someone, how are you? Be ready to listen to the answer. Be ready to hear the answer and be ready to say, how may I help you today to be a better person? Because we naturally always go in our society, it is well is something we naturally say when it is not well. If you are not okay, I'm not okay today. I had a tough time getting to work. Somebody sat on my clothes, or I was in the rain and the rain poured on my clothes. But they said, okay, do you need some time to take some time out? I think having that kind of standing by your own personal value, showing up as who you are, you'll be able to be in an organization as a woman, and you'll be able to be in an organization as a leader to merge both together. So you cannot separate your personal value as well as your career value. So I just think I'll stop there, because many times, many of us think we can separate who we are and then walk into a room, but we can't.
They work together, hand in hand. Thank you so much, Foluke. Yes, a round of applause. I hear you undertone. Your undertone is exhibit the fruit of the Spirit. Love, peace, joy, kindness, gentleness, long-suffering, isn't it? Those are, when you exhibit the fruits of the Spirit, then that forms part of a great legacy. Now, I want you to add and tell us a moment where you realized that your work was truly affecting lives. We need you to encourage the people there.
I think many times when people read my resume and they look at a lot of things I've done, and I even listen to some of those things and I think, wow. But many times when we're making history, we are not aware we're making history. We're just showing up as ourselves, and we're doing what we believe we are called to do. So when I think about many times in my career that has happened, I think one of the most impactful times that I look back at is being at Econet Wireless. And when we were bidding for a license and young people writing business plans, we knew that this was going to change Nigeria. We knew that having a mobile phone in our hands, and everyone here has a mobile phone. Before there, people used to have this fat not number, and it was just a few people that had it. You had to be special to have that number. And then the other thing we had was landlines. And we didn't understand how much of an impact it was going to make on our economy, how much of an impact it was going to make on our lives and the social fabric of Nigerians. When we were going around trying to find a partner, talking to South Africans, the South Africans were like, oh, text messaging didn't take off in our country. I don't think text messaging would take off in Nigeria. By the time we launched our network, it was the first, people were texting more than they were calling, and they couldn't believe how it would impact. So I remember the first phone call we made, because our network was MTN could say otherwise, but Econet was the one that made the first mobile. Yes, thank you. Econet was the one that first made the first mobile call in Nigeria. And I remember my friend's grandmother being able to call. She was so excited. She was able to call her market woman, and she didn't have to go and get meat in the market, because she was calling her that, do you have this and that? And she said no, so she didn't have to make that journey. Little things like that, knowing that you're impacting lives, that people didn't have to make journeys that they usually used to make. People didn't have to go to places that they didn't know. Drivers, when you send your driver, when you send your driver somewhere and you ask them where they are, they could be lying, but you knew that they had the phone in their hands and you knew exactly where they are. Impacting lives in such a way that the way this phone changed our lives was a moment that I'll never forget. Even the little things, like the first job I did when I got into Econet was to roll out all the retail outlets in all over Nigeria. And I remember the first day that we were working to start the first shop, which was on Awolowo Road. And at 3 a.m. we were still working, painting and everything. And I looked around at the room and I saw that every single person in that room was under 30. The person working on the computer, the customer care people. And I remember looking around and thinking, these are young people making an impact in Nigeria. And when we launched that store, the first day, by 12 noon, we sold 30,000 lines in that store. People were queuing all over the place. And I just said that this is such an impact that the mobile phone has made. Also, when I was rolling out the retail outlets, there was a lady that was selling on a table with an umbrella outside, and she came to me and started begging me that, please, don't let me go. I know you're building a fancy store here. So instead of letting her go, I decided to do a branding of a big kiosk with Econet Wireless and put her in there. She started selling more than sweets that she was selling. This is a woman that was just selling sweets and thought that was what she was selling. She started selling like soft drinks. She was selling so much. So impacting livelihoods like that. That was, I think Econet Wireless was the most time that I looked back and I thought, I've made a difference and I've left a legacy behind, and we still have that legacy till today, and people are still using the mobile phone.
So much. A round of applause for her, please. Thank you, Foluke. Thank you. I say no more. Thank you. You've said that all. Rolayo, can you please share that moment when you realized your work was truly affecting lives, that impact that you have made, just examples to encourage and motivate that we're here to do?
So I'll give two examples. One, both on the job, but slightly differently. So one was my position as a leader. When you said, how are you? I recall there was a particular lady in the office at the time, in one of the roles that I functioned in. And this used to be someone who used to be very bright and bubbly and everything, you know. And I noticed that she just, you know, it's like, you know, when someone's star is just dimming, the light was like the lights were going out. And she was almost like a shadow of herself, you know. And then there's a toss-up between, you're asking yourself, okay, so she comes to work, we're not close, but where do you draw the line between I'm a boss and I'm actually concerned that, okay, then when it started impacting her work, I said, okay, now I can step in because it's actually now impacting her work. So I called her into the office and I said, you know, X person, just come see me in my office. And just said 3 words, how are you? And then she burst into tears. She broke down completely. She was in a mess. You know, she was in an abusive relationship. You know, something started to make sense, you know, because all of a sudden I just started thinking this person seemed to be very accident prone. One day her hand is this, her leg is that. I'm like, what's going on? So that's when everything started to make sense, you know, and so we now actually had to help her through that situation, you know, and get her out of that situation. It's a long journey, but the impact, I'm just saying that because of the question you asked, that, you know, just asking someone, how are you, and listening to what they have to say can actually change someone's life. You know, on the flip side now, so she's been through that, she's gone through all that, and she's back to who she really is, you know. I mean, let's not go into too much detail, but how are you makes a difference. So every day you show up, I think it's important to pay attention to the people around us. Life is lifing everybody, I understand. But every once in a while, pay attention to the folks around you, you know, and just pay attention. You could be the lifeline that someone needs at that point in time. Just a smile, just a hug, just an it's okay. And if you're a leader, sometimes just give someone that break and grace and say, you know what, go home. You don't need to be at work today, it's fine. So that's on the job side, on the internal leadership side. On other sides of actually impacting, part of what I also do is impact investments, right? Investing in businesses. And when you see a business grow, right? You see someone come to you from a pitch, right? So you go from pitch to putting something, you know, boots on the ground, getting people in place. So there's a particular company we invested in that has done very well in the healthcare space. You know, they have mobile ambulances. They're doing so many things. And by the time, you know, I'm catching up with this particular company, and I saw all the things they've done over such a short period of time and how they're actually impacting lives. And I particularly like this business because, as I said, they have in the healthcare space, they have mobile ambulances. They're doing so many things, right? And when you hear the lives that have been changed and lives that have been saved and people that do not have to die unnecessarily because of that service, I'm like, wow. So impact, you know, that is it. It's literally saving lives. So I'm quite excited about that. So when I look at things like that, I say, okay, for me, when I choose to put my money in something, yes, it's good to make money and let the money come back and bring friends. I like that, yes. But also, it's also as we're investing, also paying some attention to what we're investing in, right? And see how what we're investing is going to make a difference and an impact beyond us. Think beyond us. Think beyond yourself, beyond just the bottom line. So I think those are two examples I will give.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for her, please. Rolayo has said quite a lot, but I pick just very simple, the power of how are you? And then listening to the response of the other person. So can you ask the person sat beside you, how are you? How truly are you? How are you? Maybe a hug will do as well. It's just interesting, the things we learn. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rolayo, for that, for emphasizing on that. Funmi, I'm going to come to you to answer the same question, to share a moment when you realized your work was truly affecting and impacting lives.
Okay, so as you know, I work for Asha Microfinance Bank. So that in itself is a business of impact. So I'm going to tell you a story of sometime in March this year, we had, of course, the International Women's Day program. And as against the previous practice of having it in head office where people just take pictures in branches, we decided to go into the market space where we have the clients. And we have this in 2 locations, one in Ikorodu, another one in Egbeda. I think we hosted about 300 to 400 women in each location. And the testimonies, there was a particular woman who came out and said to us that she's been taking money, it's a microfinance bank, like I said, from us for the past 15 years, and that our 3 children, a petty trader who sells foodstuff by the roadside, and our 3 children are now graduates. She took the microphone and said she needed to speak. And, that for me was a moment that I realized that it's not just in the numbers that we speak about in the office to say, how much loan did you disburse this month? How much? It's about the impact. The fact that we as a bank have been able to empower the women. Because whether we like to admit it or not, women, we are the backbones of the homes. Regardless of what the husband, we are the one who even manage all the resources. So where we are not adequately empowered, there are issues. So it was a moment that I realized that the little things that we do on a daily basis in the office, tracking and asking, how much did you disburse yesterday? How many clients have you brought in? We thought we were just marking the numbers. But in terms of the impact in the, out there, you're empowering people, you are creating opportunities, job opportunities, economic growth, and all of that. It speaks so much, and that for me was a major one. Of course, every day when I see people who I've mentored or who I've worked with becoming, doing well in their chosen career, actually within the banking space and all, I'm always excited. Some of them don't work with me anymore. But they get back to me. They send me emails of commendations from their, they send to my Yahoo mails, they send to me, just letting me know the progress they're making. It makes me feel like, yes, this is really impact. Having been able to mentor these people, and of course, they're doing great in their chosen career. So that for me.
Thank you so much. Did you pick that? She said they sent to her Yahoo mail to tell you the generation. All right, so Funmi is here. She's the MD of the Asha Microfinance. They're going to make a presentation shortly on, accessing loans for your business or for any personal needs that you may have. So we can now throw open to you, the audience, questions that you have. So let's get into the question and answer session. For our panelists, I should have announced that earlier so that you can write. So if you want to write, but I would rather you stand and ask your questions. Does anyone have any questions?
Please, if you have a question, just raise your hand. If you have a question to ask, okay. Introduce yourself and what you do.
Good
afternoon, great leader.
Hello?
Good afternoon, great leaders. I have a question about making impact. Yes, we, as a female that has a goal and she has a driving force, but what if she has something like stopping her, something like a capital to run a business or something to push her further? What should she do?
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Should we take all the questions at once? Yeah, I think we should take it one by one. One by one, okay, that's fine. So she's asking, what if we have limitations? I mean, so things stopping her, like financial limitations, capital limitations. What should she do?
Okay, so maybe I should just take that like Dodger said. There are different things that could, serve as, like cog in the wheels of progress for anyone with regards to business. Of course, finance is major. And I would say to you that if you have issues with regards to finance, one, there are banks in Nigeria. I know the bigger banks, we don't believe that they're actually creating impact. People feel that the commercial banks actually tend to the big, business owners and all of that. But the truth is, I believe that every bank now is retail focused. So it's about you having the right information, one, interacting with people. You need to come out and speak more. Have like maybe, I don't know, a cluster that you can relate with, a cluster of women. There are several women groups now that are springing up. For example, in Hasha, we have a model that is based on group lending. What do? Women form groups by themselves. You can form a group of 10 people, a group of, depending on the numbers. Put yourselves together, understanding your financial needs, the kind of business that you do, right? And of course, there's also the financial discipline that comes with it. You must understand the fact that if you're taking funds from any bank, right, you must be financially disciplined. You must know that you are deploying the funds, of course, to the business that you want to do. And as soon as, of course, you're making progress, you're making money, making profit, you're also applying back into the business up to a point that you know that clearly you can begin to take from your profit. So the truth is, have information, interact with people who would let you know. And like I just said, form a group of women. We have even focused on women, actually. We bring women together of like minds, put them in a group, some form groups by themselves, and make yourself available to us. There are people out there who can also engage you. But the truth is, finance shouldn't be a challenge. If you have genuine business that you're doing or trade that you are into, bring them forward, do your business proposals, put it together. In fact, it's not even every business that would need you to bring a business proposal. The micro-lending business will not require so much from you. We just want to be sure of what you're doing. And we want to see how our money will come back to us. And of course, the interest rates too are also next to nothing. Okay? I hope I've been able to.
Yeah, I think you have your.
quickly?
Okay, thank you.
So just add very quickly to what Funmi has said, because she's talked about funding, right? But let's just even take it a step back, because many times people say there isn't funding. There's funding, but is your business fundable, right? Because many times you're doing good business, but your books are a mess. It's from that in account here. You'll see if the bank runs through your statement, or the financier, whoever it is, runs through your bank statement, they're seeing money coming in and out. From that money, you're buying petrol. Meanwhile, it's not for the organization. You see, you bought here, you bought this, you bought that. So you need to make sure your business is fundable. So you put a structure in place, right? So if you're the owner of that business, pay yourself a salary. From that salary, you can be spending whatever you want to spend. Keep your accounts separate. Because many times we just start a business, and then when you now need money, you now realize, these books are not looking too good. And like, there's no money. There's money, but you need to make yourself fundable. Okay, just wanted to put that there.
Shall I add to it as well? I think just to add to what everyone has said as well, to take a step back. Apart from that as well, many times we don't know what we need to do to form structures. No, there's knowledge is power. There are many organizations in Nigeria. There are many groups. Like WIMBIZ has a number of seminars that could teach you. Faith Foundation is another. I'm not a member of any of these things, but I'm just telling you, just so that you can understand that we're a community. Even here, there are people amongst us here that can help you to understand what it takes to structure a business properly, and then to also the knowledge you need to be able to do that structure. So I think another thing is not isolating yourself, being part of a community, being part of any of these organizations, women organization, being just reaching out to people and asking for information. Because many of us are small businesses and we don't know how to start. But by asking and by associating with people, then you can then know.
Thank you very much. I hope that answers your question. Do we have more questions? Okay, then someone else. I think we're just going to take 2 more so that we can go to the next panel. Mike. Can she come forward and use arms here?
Okay, sorry, I just want to ask something a little bit personal, but for professional and personal life. It's about the dark tunnels. Each and every one of us, we've gone through those dark times, those low moments. Can you just share 1 or 2 tips that can serve like those strings in like a light at the end of the dark tunnel? Because sometimes professionally or business-wise or personally, I've gone through one thing that we are talking about personal values, being kind. A lot of us are not kind to ourselves personally. So can you just share 1 or 2 tips? Sorry, I'm taking it personal.
I mean, thank you for that amazing question.
Thank you for being real.
Yeah. Thank you. And I love your question, because I said we're whole beings, right? You can't be having a bad day and then just expect to be 100% in the office. We are whole beings. And we will go through those tunnels, not once, not twice, because that's just life. It's just part of the journey. But your question is, how do you go through? I think for me, number 1 is knowing there's light at the end of the tunnel. For me, the Bible is very important. So there's a particular scripture that helps me. So can I read it? So it's John 15:16, the Amplified Version, and that for a reason. John 15:16. And it says, this is Jesus speaking. He says, "You have not chosen me, but I have chosen you, and I have appointed and placed and purposefully planted you, so that you will go and bear fruit and keep on bearing, and that your fruit will remain and be lasting. So that whatever you ask of the Father in my name, as my representative, he may give to you." So when I go to those tunnels, I remember that number 1, I'm here as I'm representing the kingdom. I'm not by myself. Okay, I have backing. I think it was Victor Lorenzo that said, I have backing. Because when you feel you're alone, the dark tunnel becomes not just dark, but narrow and tight. I start feeling squeezed that I'm here by myself. No, you're not alone. You're not alone. And also because the fact that I feel God is very intentional about us all. And I believe in having a personal relationship with God. And I believe he's very intentional about me. And he says, look, you're not alone. I chose you. I've appointed, I've placed, I've purposefully planted you. So there's intentionality. I said, God cannot be this intentional about me and just leave me to be hanging. No. So when those dark times come through, I think you mentioned one of my dark scriptures is Psalm 23. It said, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. So those valleys of shadows of death do happen, right? There will be tough times. You will have crazy bosses. You will have bad days. Things will just happen. The days that life will just be lifing anyhow, and you're just thinking, what is going on? Those days will come. But guess what? Those days will go. So these too shall pass. So what is going to help you make it pass faster is knowing that as it's passing, number one, you are passing, you are walking through, you're not standing in that valley, you are walking through, and I love the analogy you give, is a tunnel. A tunnel has a beginning, has an end. So you're walking through, keep moving. Keep it moving. Every day you go to bed, wake up, okay, tomorrow's another day. I wake up, start the day. Go to bed, wake up, tomorrow's another day, start the day, knowing that you are not alone, you are not by yourself, and you have backing. Thank you.
So, since we're going personal, so then I think everyone looks at the resume and just thinks she's had a cushy life. And just to know that I waited on the fruit of the womb for 17 years. And in that time, a lot of people look at me and just think, oh, how did you cope? What did you do? So thinking about it is that I have several mentors and community that would help you along with it. Someone like Mrs. Awoshika used to tell me that it's like, Foluke, you cannot stand still. In the midst of that 17 years, I was still working. I was still doing things. I was still living. I was still going through. As he said, it's a turn on. Be a train that goes through and just keep on going. You cannot afford to stop, because if you stop, you will regret that. You know, many times the waiting time is for our growth. I don't think I'll be who I am today if I've not waited 17 years. I don't think I'll be as strong of a Christian as I am if I've not had to wait 17 years for a child. I don't think I'll be the person that I am without the experiences that I've had. I would not be able to talk to people. I remember one time in the office, a younger colleague came to me, and because someone sent her to me that she was upset. She's been married for just 1 year, and she was like looking morose. So the woman said, do you know this woman that is in the office there doesn't have a child? She was like, she couldn't believe it, because I wasn't wearing my emotions. I was living. You have to live. You have to keep on doing what you need to do. You can't stop because you've had something like a waiting period. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with time? Because when the baby comes, you will not have the time. When the thing you're waiting for, you will not have the time. So you have to keep on going. You can't stop. And a lot of us, we write all this. You see the end results of things, but we are all, as you said, we're all going through things, and you just have to keep going.
I think Foluke just said it all, and I would say that nobody has it all perfect. And when I started my banking career, I know that, what I used to tell myself then was, each day, I'll tell myself, as I'm going out today, I know that there will be some bit of challenges on the job. But what is going to happen is I'm going to surmount whatever challenge I get to find on the job. Because right there, my mindset tells me that the reason why I was hired in the first place is that there are issues. So, and if there are no issues, then I wouldn't even have any business being there. So first, you ask God for the grace to be able to surmount every challenge that you face in the course of your career. The tunnels will be there, but of course, God will enable you. That enablement is there. And part of what some of us sitting here would say we've done 20-something years, we've done this in banking. It gets to a point that you'll be tested based on your competencies. So these tunnels you see, they are those competencies that they are equipping you for those competencies that they're going to be testing you when you get to that point where you're probably filling a role of probably an MD of a bank. I'm just saying. Because the competencies, the things you're facing, the tunnels are of course going to strengthen you. Until you go through it, you cannot have the skills to be able to resolve those problems. So the solutions come by you experiencing those challenges. And in future, when you're called upon to say, so at what point, can you tell us at what point did you have this blah, blah, blah in your career? What was the issue? Paint the scenario. What did you do? What was the success that you recorded? So how then will you be able to say it if you haven't passed through it? So they are equipping you for the future, and I trust that God will always enable you to be able to deliver. I myself was not married until most recently, and that was 2020 December at my age. So every one of us have got something going on for us, and of course just had a baby last year. So you can imagine. So we all have something.
And we're
Nobody
not
has it
wearing
all
it.
perfect.
Wow.
Just keep thanking God for the things that are happening for you on the positive note, and you'll always be fine. Thank you.
You see? You know, I told us that at the beginning, thank you so much for that, ladies. I told us at the beginning, I said, it's not hunky-dory for us. We're going to share our real life experience as leaders. We are successful, but we've had challenges. And like 4 of us have talked about now, and the other people coming will tell you how they built their pillar on God. Yes. To the person that asked the question, I perceive that she's disappointed because she's heavily reliant on men. That's what I perceive. You sound disappointment because you feel so and so person should be the one to give you this or do that, if I'm correct. But from what you've heard the ladies talk about now, just shift your eyes away from men and put it on God and see how things will start to turn around faster for you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
All right, so we have another question here. How many more questions can we take, ma'am?
You tell me. You are the MC.
Just one.
Okay.
Hey.
So don't worry. We have ladies. We are here for networking and further mentoring, so you can meet your favorite panelists to speak to you, because I want us to go into the next panel session, which is on sexual harassment. We need to dissect that as well. I don't want us to miss it. So let's take 1 or 2 questions. And, you know, like I said, be free, feel free, unburden, open up, and let's help you.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much, our distinguished speakers. We really appreciate this. My name is Olasukomi Kuforiji, and I have my questions written down. I have 2 questions, actually, but one of them have been answered, which was the sacrifice you had to make to get to where you are today and building legacy. But I mean, it has been answered, honestly. And the last on my list is, how are you able to balance the desire to create long-lasting impact, which is this legacy, with the very need for money and building wealth? As we all know, money is what drives all of these things. How will I able to build a legacy, and the people or the young women will not see it as, oh, she's trying to make money out of us. But in my heart, I know that I'm trying to build a legacy. Please, I would like that to be defined. Thank you.
I'm trying to understand the question that how do you build a legacy and balance that with making money?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, people feel that you're using them.
Yes.
So people feel you're using them. Oh, okay. So I think people will feel you're trying to use them if they don't see the value you are bringing to them. Life is give and take. And if from their perspective, and I don't know what you do, but if they feel it's just take and take and they don't see what they're getting from it, then you may need to reflect on, I don't know what it is, I don't know what your service is, but there must be something that is making people feel, you mentioned ladies, the ladies that you're working with feel, so I can't see the person I'm speaking with, so I don't know. So just to know, I just like to get, I need you to help me with the question. Because it's really about, if people feel you're using them, yes, right? So if people feel you're using them, there must be something that will make people feel that you're using them.
Okay.
So maybe you need to help.
So let me make it clear. I'm a fashion designer.
Okay.
And at the same time, I run an academy where I train students.
Okay.
So like I said, it's not just about training you to make the money from you. Of course, we need money to finance all of this training, but I want to make impact. I see women, wherever I go, young ones, younger than I do, ask you, how do you do this? Some of them don't even know the direction as to where their life is going. And I think, okay, if you can start with making clothes, that can shape you into something in life, not just sitting back as a new mother or wife or whatever. So that is my own impact that I want to have in your life as a young lady. But like I said, I get people say, oh, the money she's charging is too much. She's charging too much. Abba, we've seen designers that at their academy is not as expensive as this. So it's a thing that bothers me.
So I think it goes back to, I think what Mrs. Ibekwe said in terms of what's your value, right? What's your selling point? Why you? There are many schools. Not everybody's going to go to Harvard, right? No, but there's whatever local government grammar school. There's Eton. There are schools. So if he's going to school, there's a school. There are many academies. The question is, what is the value that people believe? Remember, because value is perceived, and not necessarily about Naira and Kobo. I gave the example. If I were to tell you, I want to sell you a pair of Ferragamo shoes for 100,000 Naira, will you buy it?
It's Ferragamo, yes.
It's Ferragamo, yes. If I were to tell you that I made a pair of shoes, I, myself, and you don't know me, I want to sell it for 100,000 Naira, would you buy it?
Well, no.
You are being polite because I'm holding the mic. The answer is no. But it might be the same leather, same pair of shoes, and mine might even be better than. But you said something, it's Ferragamo. So there's a brand, there's a quality that's associated, not just a brand, but there's quality that's associated with it. So the question is, have you, and I don't know your business, have you built your brand to where people perceive that, okay, this quality speaks? There are many designers. If someone were to say, go to, give me a designer now. Vicky James Designing School, I don't know. Diola Sego. I mean, there's some names, there's some brand names that people will think that, in fact, they'll even have a waiting list, a long waiting list. They won't be arguing, right, about it. So I think the important thing is not to focus on what people are saying, but building your brand to the extent that people are looking to want to work with you. Yeah. That I must be mentored by this person. I see the excellence in her. I see that, okay, the example that was given as Mrs. Baker was speaking about the senators, anything this woman touches turns to gold. You know, people are wearing it, is this, is that. So it's not necessarily about about the noise, but what is this noise saying about your brand or your perceived brand, because that's their reality. Right, and how can you build yourself from that so that you don't have to have those kind of conversations? And you're not for everybody, and that's the truth. That's it. That's the long and short of it. You're not for everybody. This is your price point. That's what it is. Water will always find its level, but that level must make sense.
Thank you very much.
And you know, to add to what Rolayo has said, I don't know whether you started with us when I gave my keynote speech.
No, I came late. I didn't.
So we hinged it on what? Be unstoppable. So you are unstoppable, build your brand, be focused, and see those things as distractions. That's how the enemy creeps in slightly. Because you said, oh, and I'm bothered. Why? If you're sure of what you're doing and you have God on your side, just keep at it. Be focused. Don't let those comments distract you from your goal.
Thank you so much. That's so impactful. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we?
I was just thinking about just being consistent in who you are, and then people knowing who you are, and because many people are transactional. So if you are transactional, they feel that you are just trying to get and get and get. But also, we go back to what we were speaking about, your values and your character. If anyone would buy, there's some people that are so lovely, they just want to buy things of them just because they're lovely. So if they know that you have this character that is lovely, people are drawn to you. So what is your character as well? You need to have that, because there's some people that are the most arrogant people and they're the best fashion designers and nobody wants to buy from them. But if you have this character and you remain who you are, and you are true to who you are, and they don't see that you are just trying to take from them, then people would really be drawn to you.
Thank you so much.
Can I please advocate? I know you said time up, but there's a lady who's been sitting in the corner. Her hand has been up from the get-go, but because she's in the corner, no one saw her.
Good afternoon, leaders. Thank you very much for that. I've been raising my hand since. In fact, because you've seen me, God has seen me.
Amen.
So I know we've been talking about legacy and we've delved into the financial part and all that, but one part that is actually very important for me personally is the parenting side. We are all women, majority of us here have children. Congratulations on the wedding and on the baby too. But for women like you that have been in the high impact sector, talk about financing, talk about radio, TV, industry and all that, how are you able to manage it with your like the work-life balance? How are you able to, since you're talking about legacy, I believe legacy is not just about you, it equally transcends to your children. the family, your husband? How are you able to merge it such that you are performing excellently at work and it is not affecting the home front? Thank you.
Well, because I've not had to, mine is not a parenting one. It's just how I balance living and just showing up at work as well. You can't keep a good marriage without having to be intentional. So it's just that intentionality. If I think about it, like with my husband, it's like showing up every day and making sure it's part of your journey as well. Not being someone that separates your life. So many of us, we live separate lives with our spouses. We live separate lives with what we're going to do. Making sure they're also part of the journey, because if they're part of the journey, then they can carry you along. In terms of parenting, I mean, from what I've learned from people is that also being intentional as a parent. I've noticed that one of the books that I'm writing now that is coming out is a parent-child journal, where I get parents and children to just interact in a fun way of asking each other questions. I've learned that we don't talk to each other anymore. This thing, as much as I was part of the people that helped to introduce it into Nigeria, has been the bane of our existence in some way. If you sit at a dinner table, you find people sitting down, they're not talking to each other. Also, communication is key with your children. How are you talking to them? How are you making sure that you are attentive to them? How are you making sure that you are not coming in and still doing your work? So making sure there's a stop when you come in. When you come into the home, making sure that you pay them their full attention. So you have children that know that their mother values them and they love them, and she loves them, and it's not only about work. So that also making time for other things apart from. And you know, I always talk about, we've talked about it a lot, spiritual life as well. What do you pour into them as well in terms of spirituality? How do you do? For me, one of the things that is very important is waking up in the morning and also praying together. Also praying with your children, talking to them about who God is, and having conversations in a fun way. You don't have to make it in a structured way all the time, but having fun conversations with them about God, having fun conversations with them about what you do, so they understand what mommy does outside as well, and also understand why mommy does what mommy does, not separating things. So apart from talking to your spouse, talking to your children about what they do, so they understand why mommy is away all the time. And just making sure, I think, just to summarize it, is just communication, being intentional in your parenting, being intentional in your marriage, going on dates. So don't and dates, I don't mean going to expensive restaurants. Even sitting together at home. I know many spouses that they come in, the husband is watching football and the wife is somewhere else, and you're not sitting together, and you spend the whole day apart. So just being together. So I think it's just being intentional in what you want to do.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Sorry, I understand someone begged us.
Yes.
Just a final question.
Yes.
Final.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
So may I just add? Can I just add?
Okay.
Sorry,
Right,
and I don't want us to leave here thinking this thing called work-life balance. Let's not kick ourselves, especially for working more. It's work-life negotiation. It's not a balance. Because balance sort of implies that it's going to be 50-50. Some days it's 60-40, some days it's 70-30, sometimes it's 90-10. Because there's some days you will have to take work home. There's some weekends that you are working throughout. It just is part of the journey. You know, so it's that negotiation that, okay, if I've taken from here, then how do I borrow back, as we used to say when you're trying to do arithmetic, right? How do I get it back, right? And so understand that maybe I've been so busy Monday to Saturday. What worked for me, so I have 2 young men, right? I can't call them boys anymore. They're not children, they're young men. And so what worked for me was that Sundays I found it was the best. So we'll go to church. After church on Sundays, we'll stop somewhere. It doesn't have to be anything expensive, cheap and cheerful. And that's where we just sit down and have a conversation. And that is when I'll catch up on what happened during the week. Oh, this is what happened. This person said this, that person said that, and all whatnot. And it also helped not being at home, because they also felt, you know, sometimes when you're home, like, mommy is talking again, you know, you feel that there's this pressure of, what have I done now? But the fact that we're somewhere neutral, it does help that the tongue flow better. Right? And so that was what worked for me. So Sunday was like sacrosanct, right? I mean that, okay, after service we'll do this. And it helped even, you know, you're encouraged, not just about, for them, it's not necessarily that they didn't like going to church, but they knew that, okay, after the service, so we're going somewhere, and I let them pick where we will go. So that helped, right? That's on the parenting side. And then even likewise for the husband side as well, because, okay, my young men are older now, they're not at home. So I have more time with my husband, and so we are rediscovering each other, right? You know, within the context of, okay, now kind of conversations we're having. I watch more football than I used to because I never used to watch football. Now we sit down and we just sit down and do stuff together. So it's not a balance per se, it's a constant negotiation and knowing what your non-negotiables are. What needs to be done, number one? What needs to be done by you? Not everything that needs to be done by you. So what can you outsource to someone else? So that frees you up so you can actually be mommy, be wife, be sister, be daughter, be all those things. Anything else you can outsource to someone else.
Thank you very much. All right, how do you recover lost time? What do you do when you feel you have so much, but you have given very little? How do you still make impact when you feel age is no longer on your side?
Thought to myself that, okay, what if I choose to go into something else? What if banking ends today? Where else will I be relevant, right? That was after several years of having done a local MBA. I then decided that data analytics for me would help, with regards to my role in the bank, as then I was in retail banking. I then went back to school and had to do another MBA in data analytics. So there is room for continuous improvement and personal development. So there's no time that is ever lost. I've seen people graduating in law school at 70 and all of that. So we can always rediscover ourselves and choose.
We even talked about that at the beginning. Do you remember where we started by talking about being unstoppable? And then I went over KFC that started KFC at what age? 60. I became a billionaire at what age? Died at. So it's never too late to start. Failure is part of the journey. It's not an end to the journey. One house, it is part of the journey. And then, we talked about Oprah as well. She was fired from her first TV job as a news anchor, and then she went on to create her own TV show, the Oprah Winfrey. So there are many, many opportunities. We then talked about Vera Wang as well, who was initially a figure skater, and then just like Funmi said, she went on, became a journalist, before then she became a fashion mogul. So there's never a time that you can't start again. I use the Bible verse of Job 8:7 to quote it, to describe it, that even though that beginning was small, there's always a small raw fish beginning, but look at the latter end. God will always take you through a latter end glory. Can we end this? Please.
Just say something, because I write books about Nigerians, and a lot of examples that you gave are from abroad. But if you think about it, one of the books that I wrote about Chimamanda's father, and he was the first professor of statistics in Nigeria. He started off studying something else in university. He actually failed his first statistics exam, and he continued to become the top professor of statistics in his field. Also, the other thing that happened to him is during the Biafra War, all his books got burnt. Every single thing. He had to start all over again in terms of his tenure. People sent books to him, but he kept on going. So there are many examples, even in Nigeria, of people that have done things and have started off from where they are, even when they felt they failed. There are people that started off at things late. You have somebody like Fola Alade's father, who was one of the first topmost architects in Nigeria. He built a lot of the embassies in Nigeria, and for him, he even educated himself. He just kept on going. So all the things that we see as failures are not failures. You have somebody like the first chief of nursing staff in Nigeria. She was the first black nurse on the NHS. She was a woman that developed herself. She became a nurse against all odds in the NHS. In the NHS, you could not become a nurse if you were married, but she became a nurse, and she became not only chief nursing staff in Nigeria, she was one of the first commissioner of health in Lagos State. She won the Florence Nightingale medals. There are people in Nigeria that have gone great things. So it's not only abroad that these things are happening. So it's happening here as well.
Would like to say thank you to our very excellent panelists and moderators.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Before we celebrate you, would want you to take pictures real quickly. And while they are doing that, can we all stand up, celebrate them, and just appreciate them.
A round of
Together,
applause, please.
we can give them a round of applause and say, thank you. Can we all do that, my fellow leaders? Are you ready? In 3, 2, 1. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much,
Thank
man.
you.
So much touching stories there
Yes.
that would actually transform our lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing your stories with
Certainly.
us. Thank you so much. You've touched lives. You've impacted lives. You know, just as you do outside, you brought it here and you poured so much into us, and we are very grateful.
Thank you very
Thank you
much
so
for
much.
everything you've shared today. Thank you so much.